Hi friends, welcome to my kitchen, my new kitchen. This is my new kitchen. I want to say hi. It's November 14th. It is in my kitchen. We have turned the kitchen into a seed factory. And this is the time of year here in Grow Zone 5B in Chicago that there's not a lot of garden tours anymore because there's nothing in the garden. So I have seeded some stuff that I wanted to share with you. And I also have never in my life seeded an okra. Well, this past year was the first year I even grew okra. So that was such a surprise and such an amazing source of food that is yummy in my tummy. So I just wanted to share with you today how I am going to seed this okra. I can't say it's the right way or the wrong way because I haven't even YouTubed how to save okra seeds. The one thing that I do know about okra is, and for most fruits, no, not for most fruits, but for okra, this is a fruit that you have to let stay on the vine or on the stalk or on its plant until it gets really super dry. And I grew most of my okra at the church this year in the Giving Garden, where we supplied and provided over 800 pounds of produce for the food pantries this year. Yay, team. And we're going to double that next year, if not quadruple it. But I left the okra stalks in the garden with the pods on them for the purpose of seeding them. And I went over to the garden a couple days ago, and an overzealous community service worker completely leveled the entire garden. So all of the plants that we had that had mature potted seeds on them are gone. And I did manage to find one because I had left this red tape ribbon, tie-up ribbon on it, so that I shared this with our crew. I said, keep an eye on this okra, how big it's going to get, because we let this thing grow to over maturity. Obviously, this is a Clemson spineless. You can hear it. It's like a baby rattle. It's like rattling inside. That means that the seeds are dried up and they're ready to extract out of this pod. So it's kind of hard, and I'm praying that these don't go all over the place, but I want to share with you how I'm doing it, and then maybe YouTube how to do it for real. But all I know is we got to get the seeds out, make sure we keep them out so that they dry completely, and then put them in a baggie so that we can grow them next year. And to grow them, you actually have to soak them for 24 hours in water before you put them in the ground and direct sow them. So that's what we're going to do. So give me 1 second. I'll turn the camera around. Well, didn't hit the button right. Okay, here we are. Cutting board. Baggie, Clemson Spineless 2020. I should just put Clemson Spineless Corona with a cross mark in it. And a little bowl. But it's actually split open a little bit right here. You could see right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and pry it open. And hopefully the seeds don't fly all over my kitchen. They are slowly falling out. It's almost like really hard corn stalks or ears of corn. I have absolutely no idea how many seeds are in here. I hope you can see that. It's kind of like a little valley in there. There's one more seed down here. But that's just one of the reservoirs where those seeds are. So there's more. Oh boy. I'll see how it splits on the bottom. They just kind of roll out. That's kind of cool. I had a friend of mine was seeding some okra seeds, and she was actually taking fresh okra and pulling the seeds out, and had a big bowl of the seeds And in my mind, I thought to myself, those aren't, number one, they're not mature. Number two, they're wet. And I do not know how that turned out. So I ended up sending her a message asking her how those seeds turned out and if I could get any, because it was for the red burgundy variety. And she said that they all turned to mold. And I had suggested to her that I think that you have to wait for the seed pod to get nice and crunchy hard like these. See, it's like totally crunchy. In order to get the seeds out so that you can have mature seeds that you can plant for the next year. I don't know how many little reservoirs are in here, but I'm kind of just digging around with my finger. There's some more in there. And I think I got them. Yep, I think I got them all out. Let's see. That's kind of what it looks like, minus these pieces. I pulled out all the okra seeds. So this is, let's see, that's probably about 60 seeds. They look like really big peppercorns, but they're okra seeds. So here they are. And even though I'm fairly certain they are dry, I'm going to leave them in here in this bowl for a while with the little baggie so that I just leave them in my kitchen until they dry up a little bit. These are the seeds from a giant squash. I wish I would have shared a picture of it. This yellow squash was about 1.5 feet long and probably about that wide, probably the size of a small melon. Oh my gosh, it was giant. So I pulled the seeds out yesterday, rinsed them, and they're drying here on this paper towel. I could tell that they're still cold and a little bit damp, so they're obviously going to stay on this paper towel for a little bit longer before I put them in a baggie. But this yellow squash grew prolifically in the garden this year. There was not a lot of disease, and at the end of the season, we got a little bit of powdery mildew, so we used some neem oil on that. And then this is the seeds that I've gotten to deal with this week, which is some milkweed. I found a pod alongside of the road, so I grabbed a milkweed pod. This is some Bib lettuce that bolted and went to flower, so I let that dry out and I harvested the seeds from those. And lots of peppers. Green bell peppers, red bell peppers, yellow bell peppers, orange bell peppers, sugar rush peach peppers. This is some watermelon seeds that I got from a friend of mine. They're called the diamond watermelon. This is the Sunburst Tomatoes. I did use the mesh baggie over the fruit of this tomato this past year and was able to save it to its true heirloom state. I made a video about that. You should check that out. Also, the Paul Robeson did the same thing. I used a mesh baggie to make sure to preserve this into an heirloom variety again for this year, which I did because Paul Robeson tomatoes are fantastic. And then we grew strawberry blonde sunflowers in the garden at the church. They only got about 4 or 5 feet tall, but again, I saved these in the garden, all of them, so that we can seed them. And when I went back to the garden, I had to do like a egg hunt looking for my okra pods and my sunflowers. And rodents ate all of the sunflowers except for one sunflower head that was about this big. And it was a strawberry blonde. So I was able to extract a bunch of seeds. So let's pray that we can still grow those next year. That's the thing about a community garden. You never know who's going to get their hands into it. And it kind of breaks your heart, but you have to kind of know that going into it. I also have tons of chives. Let me press pause and show you this. A very dear friend of mine that I met this year online lived about 40 minutes from me, and she was getting rid of her hobby farm and she was moving away. So she let us take some herbs and some plants out of her garden, and I dug up a chive plant because I know that they're pretty invasive, so I have a little bit of a space that I can plant chives this next year. So I brought a big bulb of the chives home, and it was already flowered, and I grabbed these flowers off the chives before I stuck it in the ground. But I want to see if this will show you really quick. Inside each one of these little flowers is a black tiny seed. And once again, if you let this stay on the plant and turn brown and get crunchy, like see how that's crunchy? Once you let it get to that state, if the wind doesn't blow these around, you can take them off gently and put them over a plate and just shake them out and see how they fall onto the plate. Let me get that to focus. I hope you can see that. So these little tiny black seeds is what grows a chive plant. I don't know how big the plant will get with these little bitty things, but I'm going to plant a bunch of them. I'll seed start indoors, a couple of these in some seed trays, but I'm also going to just direct sow them into a spot in my garden. But I did this with the lettuce that I just showed you. I took the lettuce flowers and I crumbled them up like this and crushed them up with my hands like this into a bowl. And then I went outside and I kind of sifted it and I flung it in the air in a big steel bowl and I blew into the bowl and all the debris will blow out, but the seeds are a little heavier and they'll stay at the bottom. So that's kind of how I did it with the lettuce, but I'll do that with the chives as well because there's about 15 seeds in here that I can add to the bunch. But I have this entire bag full of chive flowers. I think you can see in there. And I will seed those up. But again, it's November 14th. And there's not a whole heck of a lot of garden to show you. So I'm basically seeding the crap out of things right now. I just made my last batch of tomato salsa fresh from the garden. I used onions that I grew. I used the tomatoes that I grew that I had to pick about a month ago, green, because we got our first frost, and they sun ripened in my window. So I made 2 quarts of salsa last night. And that's what I'm doing, is just seed saving a lot. I have a lot of plans through the winter for seed starting things to kind of test things out, different flowers, because I love petunias and I hate purchasing them. So I'm going to seed start some petunias and see if I can get some of those. And I'm going to make flower pots this year and sell those as well, as in addition to the vegetable plants that I sell. But I just wanted to share that with you today. Seeding a Clemson spineless okra. I wish I could have got the Star of David, and I wish I would have got the red burgundy, but somebody destroyed our plants in the garden. So maybe next year. I still have heirloom seeds though from Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. I'll link them below as well for those varieties. But it's always fun to save the seeds and watch the reproduction of it from the next year. But I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today. I wish you the best in your gardening adventures, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.